Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live presentation titled OPC Redundancy. My name is Randy, and I am the presenter today. We already verified most of you can receive the audio portion of this webinar well. So if you have a problem with the audio, please let me know immediately. We will also provide a copy of the webinar at the end of the presentation. If you can't hear me well, please click telephone. You can see that right over here, and you will get a list of local phone numbers you can call. Today's presentation will take about 45 minutes, including questions and answers. If you have a comment to make or a question to ask, please use the chat interface at the bottom right-hand side of your desktop. The organizers will pass me your questions, and I will include them in the webinar as we move along. If I don't get to your question during the slide presentation itself, I will answer it at the end. I will also send an email responding to each individual question. Let's get going. Once again, this webinar is titled OPC Redundancy. We will be talking about the problem itself. What problem are we trying to solve? I will talk about the solution, and I will introduce to you OPC Expert's Redundancy. We'll talk about the architecture and the different modes, hot, warm, and cold. And at the end, I'll let you know how to get the webinar recording. Of course, we're going to send you an email and from where you can get the software download. Okay, let's have a look here at the problem we've got. So in automation, obviously our systems are operating 24/7. They are operating all the time, and they're expected to work all the time, 100%. And they're kind of out of sight and out of mind. So OPC server failures are very, very possible here, and they can fail very simply because a user might do something strange, like maybe a user might turn off Windows, or they'll press something bad or kill some applications, or maybe the software dies because maybe it has a bug in there somewhere, or maybe the hardware itself fails. It might be the case that maybe some resources, computer resources, aren't available. For example, some other application is chewing up your CPU, or you're very, very low on memory. Maybe your hard drive is very, very busy, so the resources themselves are not available. Or it may be the case that you just don't have network access from your application to this OPC server. And in all those cases, redundant data sources enable us to have a very, very reliable communication path. In other words, if the communication path over here on the left fails, we want to move over to the right, and hopefully this is done automatically. Now, some applications already support redundancy. So if your application is able to connect directly to these OPC servers, you don't need anything else. You really don't need it. So there's no point in the rest of this presentation. This is not for you. But if your application does not currently have redundancy, you can retrofit it with OPC Expert. And you can benefit from redundancy immediately, where you'll get either very little or no data loss. And you can automatically move your communication from a primary to a secondary or standby path. And again, you can do this on existing applications. And I'll show you how. It's pretty cool. So the idea is that this application here, what we see over here, the redundancy, needs to be able to detect any kind of failure. Now, that failure could be with the network, it could be with the computer hardware, again, it could be with the software, or it could just be that your data is not changing, or maybe did change and it shouldn't have. So in that case, as an example, this OPC server is perfectly fine, but you now need to fail over to a standby path because there's something wrong with the data. So this application needs to be able to detect all the possible failures. And then after moving over, it needs to be able to restore the old connection automatically. So once you're over here, you need to be able to get this going again. And of course, that's automatic. And it needs to be able to tell the users of the exact communication status. Are you having a problem? What's happening here? What's going on? Am I trying? Are you not? What is happening here? And of course, it needs to run as a service so that it's automatic. Nobody needs to log on. This thing starts automatically. If anything goes wrong, Windows will restart it. And as a result, it is always running. So what we're talking about here for OPC support is supporting OPC UA, OPC Classic DCOM, and of course, OPC tunneling. The communication support, you want to support all the security profiles. Obviously, security is important. Connect to local and remote OPC servers. And again, do this with DCOM or TCP/IP, HTTP, HTTPS, whatever the communication mechanism, whatever the security, whatever the location, you want to be able to make this connection to the primary and the standby data sources and complete Windows support all the way from Windows XP to Windows 11 or Windows 2003, all the way to Windows Server 2025. So lots and lots of support. Let me show you the architecture here for OPC Expert. Now, what I'm going to show you is what is inside OPC Expert. So when you get OPC Expert, when you download it, this is what you'll have inside. And we begin with an OPC DA client and a UA client. So this is how OPC Expert ingests the data. So it comes in via OPC DA or OPC UA. And that information goes into OPC Expert's intelligent engine and then comes out via OPC DA and OPC UA. So there's a server in there, which means you can see right away, you can have OPC DA coming in, but OPC UA coming out, or OPC UA coming in and OPC DA coming out, or DA in, DA out. It doesn't really matter. OPC Expert doesn't really care. It's all handled within this intelligent engine. Now, there's much more to it. You can send out the information via Excel. You can use MQTT. There's a broker included in it, which also means that there is a publisher and a subscriber. So both of these are included in here. There are other ways to get data out. You can send it out to a database, to SQL or to Azure or to Amazon, AWS. You can ingest with other ways. You can send out the data via REST API. So lots of different ways to get the data in and out of OPC Expert. Once again, all of this is inside OPC Expert, but in this particular webinar, we're focusing on these aspects, OPC in and OPC out. And now we're talking about adding redundancy capabilities if you don't already have this. So the architecture looks like this. Here's your application. You have OPC servers that are connected to the PLC. Now, once again, if your application can connect directly to these OPC servers, well, you don't need anything else. But if you don't have built-in redundancy, you can retrofit with OPC Expert. And in this case, what happens is that instead of connecting to a remote OPC server, you connect to a local OPC server. It looks just like this. It's a mimic. It looks just like this guy, but it's a local OPC server. So what that means is this application doesn't have to worry about network connection, doesn't have to worry about any kind of failures because that is done over here. So you make this connection via OPC UA or OPC DA. Now, OPC Expert then makes the connection directly to the OPC servers via OPC UA or OPC DA, whatever it is they support. But of course, if for some reason you need a different way to connect. Maybe for some reason you're talking about tunneling. Maybe you need to tunnel for one reason or another, whatever that reason is. OPC Expert also includes a tunnel. So just like this. So all of this is included right within OPC Expert. To get that data into your application, then you can send it out to do analysis, or you can archive, whatever it is you want. But the data comes in from redundant data sources right now. So it's pretty easy to do, and I'll show you how this is done. So there are 3 redundancy modes you should consider, and I will explain the difference. So in hot, you can see that both this OPC server, the primary and the secondary, are bringing in data. That means this OPC server is getting data from the PLC. So is this OPC server, and they're both sending data to OPC Expert. The big benefit of this, the advantage is there is no data loss, because both of these guys are sending data. If one of them fails, well, you're still getting data from the second. There is absolutely no data loss. The disadvantage is that both of these OPC servers are actually getting data from the PLC. Sometimes the PLC can't handle it. Sometimes it's not advisable. Maybe your architecture doesn't support it. But if it does, then hot redundancy is particularly good. Again, you have a primary and a secondary. Now, if hot, and of course, I should really point out, you can also get tunneling. So this works with tunneling as well. So you can do it without tunneling or with tunneling, just like that. All right. So now, if hot doesn't work for you for one reason or another, OPC Expert also provides warm redundancy. This is, of course, right out of the box. In warm, you have a primary and a standby, not a secondary, but a standby, because you're not always connected. And here we can see data is coming in from the primary. OPC Expert is still connected to the standby OPC server. It's connected, it's monitoring it, but it's not telling it to get any data. So there's no data that passes to the PLC. So the PLC is only, the control system is only serving one OPC server with data. The big advantage of this is that it's really only half the traffic. The disadvantage is there is potential for some data loss. After all, it takes a little bit of time, number one, to detect that there's a failure here, and then it takes a little bit of time to move over. If this failure time is at all a concern for you, move over to hot. So you can do hot just the same. Otherwise, you can go with warm. It can take 5 seconds to move over. It can take 10 seconds. Whatever it takes is really up to these OPC servers, because they have to be told, hey, you need to get going and start to collect data. Of course, again, you can do this with or without tunneling. So here it is with tunneling, here it is without. So all of that is embedded right inside OPC Expert, and I'll show you how that's done. Now, cold is the third mode. And in this case, what happens is that the OPC server is not even running. So maybe the OPC server isn't running, maybe it's not activated. Who knows? Maybe even the machine isn't on. Regardless, what's going on is you're getting data from the primary path right here. The standby separately only starts when this one fails. That means OPC Expert's got to wait for this one to come up. When it does, it would make the connection. Again, the advantage is that you only get half the traffic, because only one server is active at any one time. Also, another advantage is some architectures just don't support having 2 OPC servers at the same time. As an example, if you're using Honeywell TDC 3000 or Honeywell Experion, you can only have one of these OPC servers running at any one time. So it's not possible to have warm. It's not possible to have hot. Their architecture only supports cold. So OPC Expert also supports cold. And so the disadvantage, of course, is that it could take a bit of time for this server to start up. The data loss is even longer. And if that's really important, move to warm. If it's really important, move over to hot. A recommendation, of course, is hot. And I'll compare these. And remember, you can also have tunneling. So without tunneling or with tunneling, as you see over here. Okay, so now to compare the three modes, here's what you see. There's hot, warm, and cold. So hot is really what we recommend. If at all possible, use hot. If you can do it, use hot, because then there is no data loss. If that's not possible, go over to warm. If that's still not possible, go over to cold. Again, OPC Expert doesn't really care. You just tell OPC Expert what you want, and OPC Expert will execute that. So there's hot, warm, and cold. We'll do a little demo here, and specifically, I'll do the one that we recommend, which is hot, and you'll get to see what's going on there. So again, what we're going to do is hot redundancy. So both of these servers will run, which means I'll need to set up OPC Expert over here running as a Windows service. So you see how it's set up as a service, and we'll set up OPC Expert here, and you'll get to see how OPC Expert is set up from scratch. So let's go and do a demo for this. So let me put this up. There we go. Now I will leave this picture here in the middle. You can see we have three computers here. So we've got the, this is where our application will be. Here is the primary, and here's a standby. There's our little map. So I'm going to be on the primary, which is this computer right here. I need to set up OPC Expert as a Windows service. Now, what you can see is when you download OPC Expert, you only get this one file. When you run OPC Expert, and I'll do the same thing over here, when you run OPC Expert, it will create all the files it needs. So that will be done here, all the files and folders. It just extracts them, and there you go. So there they are running. And OPC Expert starts up. I'll pop open Task Manager so you see what's going on. Now here, this is what Task Manager looked like. There's OPC Expert. OPC Expert is not running here, so just so you see, there is no OPC Expert. There is nothing running. Over here, we see OPC Expert. Now, I will actually make this a little bit smaller so you can see better. Nope. And you can see OPC Expert down here. Now, what I would need to do on this computer right here is run OPC Expert as a service. So to do that, I can right-click and run as a service. Now pay attention, I'm going to run it as a system account. Look down here, and after I click OK, watch what happens over here, which is OPC Expert is going to set itself up as a service, and there it is right here. It's a service running as a system account. I no longer need the GUI, so I no longer need the GUI. And this OPC Expert system tray is this one right here. It's a nice little utility, enables you to get a common OPC easier to see what's going on. So you can see we just have OPC Expert UA server running over here. Okay, so let's go and take a look. I don't need this anymore. I will start up OPC Expert over here as well. And of course, it will create everything. There is OPC Expert running. And remember, I need, so now I'm on this computer over here on the right, and I need to set up OPC Expert to run here as a Windows service. So here it is starting up. Keep in mind, if you do lots of these, OPC Expert also has a command line interface for those that are interested in it. So then you can just do everything with a batch file. In any case, run as a service, click OK. And sure enough, you'll see that OPC Expert, there it is, OPC Expert UA server is now running as a Windows service. It's that easy. I'll close OPC Expert. I'll even close this system tray. Again, I don't need to close them. It's just that I want to have less stuff happening on my desktop. Okay, so here we go. There's OPC Expert. We have OPC Expert here, and now we've set up OPC Expert in both locations, running as a Windows service. So here, let's go to, and I should have pointed out, we're on this computer and we're going to set this up with redundancy. So once again, there's OPC Expert. I'll run Task Manager. There we go. You can see OPC Expert is not running. I will run this guy. Of course, it will extract everything. You've seen this before, so no need to put it up on the screen. And here we go. So OPC Expert is running. It's just setting up right now. And once it's set up, I will add the two computers. So I need to tell OPC Expert these two computers exist, the primary and the secondary, and then I'll set up the redundancy. So it's just starting up right now. There we go. I will add computer, primary, and we will add another computer, secondary. Now, these are just the computer names, so their names are not particularly relevant. I'll give lots of room so you can see what's going on. I'll resize this in a bit. And here we go. So, all right. So even if you can't browse for one reason or another, even if you can't browse, it doesn't really matter. You can either rebrowse or you can just let OPC Expert know what servers are available. Now, for some reason, the browsing is not working. Let me just see what's going on here. We'll view servers. I don't want to bother with historical data access. There we go. And not with alarms events. And we'll try again. Okay, that's okay. Even if we can't browse, that would be just fine. And oh, yes. And the reason is, my apologies here. The reason that the servers aren't there is because, I'm sorry, in a previous demo here, what I did is I removed the OPC servers. So they are actually not here. I should have noticed it. And so the server, pardon me, we want to show the hidden servers. And let's get these back on. So we'll restore this one. And we will restore this one. How do you know this is live? Okay, so there we go. And we will rebrowse. And they should be there. Rebrowse. And here we go. But we don't actually need to browse to be able to see them. Once again, there are the servers. Okay, so let's, this is going to be the primary OPC server over here. This is going to be the standby. So to get redundancy working, and I'll just show you what's on this computer, which is nothing, just OPC Expert. But to get redundancy, all you do is you drag the source, the primary, and then you drop it onto the standby or secondary right here. Just drag and drop. That's it. There's the setup. So it's pretty simple. You can see hot, warm, and cold. In fact, let me just want to show you this a little bit differently. Here we go. So you can see there's OPC Expert. When we drag and drop, there we go. So hot, warm, cold, nice and easy. You can click whatever it is you want. Select to use tunneling or not. It's just set up for the easiest. We'll click OK. And now watch this. Here, what we're going to see is a brand new service, OPC Expert Data Server. You saw briefly, and another server. Then we look here, and we're actually going to see a couple of new OPC servers, this one here and this one here. Now, what I'll do is, because the source OPC server is DA, I'll stick with DA. It doesn't really matter, but there we go. So we'll get more room here. We don't need everything in here. There we go. Now we have a little bit more room. And okay, so let's take a look. So here I will open up this here. I should show is we're looking at this now. So now we're in the application. We're going to look here to see what the redundancy sees, and it will see the same as these OPC servers. So we'll open it up. And in this OPC server, let me go into here. You can see the item names are identical. There's no difference between the source OPC server and what we see over here. So here we can see everything is set up. The qualities are all good, and we're getting data. I will also add some diagnostic information. So OPC Expert comes with a lot of diagnostic information. There's a lot in here, and you can go look through it. But very specifically, what I want to do is to focus on 4 items. So the server action primary, what it's doing with the primary, which is nothing right now because we're connected. What the status is of the primary, which is asynchronous, and what it's doing with the secondary, which is nothing because we're connected. What the server status is, and it's asynchronous. So these are the most interesting ones I want to focus on right now. All right, so there we are. We see these. We're now getting data. You can see I'm connecting. So let's introduce some faults. So once again, this computer up here is this one. There's the primary, that's the bottom left. And the secondary bottom right is this computer over here. So there we go. Okay, so the first thing I'll do is I will disconnect from the network over here. So you can see how it behaves. Now, to do that, I will just pull the cable. So I just pulled the cable. Sorry, you can't see that. But what you can see is check out what's happening over here. Waiting to connect, connecting, and of course it will fail. Now, keep in mind, remote desktop will fail as well, right? So it's connecting, waiting to connect, right? And so it's pausing a little bit, and then it'll try to connect again, and it just keeps retrying, and retrying until I plug the computer back, and you can see it's waiting to connect, and there it goes, connecting, just waiting to establish the connection, and there we are. So we're back to, we're not taking any new action here, but the status, there we go, you can see better now. The status of the primary, we are connected asynchronous. All right, so we can do exactly the same thing on the standby, on the secondary. So I can disconnect. So I just pulled the cable on the secondary. Check this out over here. Look at that. It's waiting to connect, right? So it just, there's another failure. But if you notice, all the data is coming in here. So all the real-time data is still coming in with absolutely no problem, no delays, nothing. Until once I connect back. So I just connected back to the network. Computer over here is connected again. And is we're getting data again, and it doesn't have to retry. Let's try killing this guy over here. That's actually the OPC Expert UA server. So watch. Remember, this is a service. So when I end the task, Windows realizes, oh, it's gone, and will restart it automatically. Meanwhile, over here, up here, you can see it's connecting. Might even fail. Yeah, it did, because this one over here is, so it's waiting to connect, connecting, waiting to connect. So it wasn't ready. Pretty soon it will be ready, and OPC Expert will automatically reconnect. So it's waiting to connect. There it goes. None. asynchronous, everything is fine. And of course, in this case, I can do this one as well. Let me just shut that guy down just again to avoid clutter. There we go. So that one will be gone. And this time I will stop this service. There is the service itself, OPC Expert UA server, labeled nicely, and I will stop it from here. And because I'm stopping it from Task Manager, I gave a command to stop. Now that service will not start up automatically because Windows knows not to restart it. So that's why you can see this is waiting. This one over here, of course, so we're up here, this doesn't know why the service stopped. It doesn't know. It doesn't know when it will start again. So it just tries to reconnect all the time. This is all automated. Reconnects until somebody decides to start up the server. So here you can see the server is starting up. So there it goes. It's up there. It just started, waiting to connect. It's a state of reconnecting. It will constantly retry. There we go. And it's working now. So what we've done is we removed the network connection. We got rid of the network connection. We got rid of OPC Expert. I'll show you with the OPC servers as well. So when I go to the OPC server, this is the OPC server itself on the left. And let's go to the right. And we're going to do the same thing. So in fact, this time, just so you see there are no tricks, I will kill them both and watch what happens. End the process, end the process. So now, as a result, we're not getting any more data here. You can see it's bad. You can see it's bad. OPC Expert on these computers will try to restart the server, and it's doing that autonomously on its own. It restarted, and immediately we're getting data again. If we were just to kill one of these OPC servers, so if I were just to kill one of these OPC servers like this, for example, right? It doesn't matter. You can see the data keeps coming in, and it's coming in from the left. So I can kill these things and it makes no difference whatsoever. So it just comes in and we're getting the data. So there we go. We are getting the data. Everything is coming in. You can see none, asynchronous, which is exactly right. So in this case, OPC Expert was recovering each and every time. All right. So this, in essence, shows you hot redundancy. Let me go back in here. And folks, please keep your questions coming. And those questions that I didn't answer, I will answer once I once I finish here. But what we've seen is how to set up these OPC Expert over here using tunneling for redundancy. You can, of course, connect directly as well. So it works with or without tunneling. So this ends the forum part of the demonstration. I will go back to it later on and answer your specific questions. But let me say a few more words for the people that pay my paycheck about the training, and then I will come back to the demo and answer the questions. So for automated troubleshooting, you can use OPC Rescue. You can just download it from opcrescue.com, or you can download OPC Expert from opcexpert.com. And you can do everything that I've done here and what we do in other webinars as well. With OPC Expert, you can trend, you can bridge, you can tunnel, archive, you can do the redundancy that we talked about, right? So there are many, many different activities you can do with it, many different purposes. And in this particular webinar, we talked about OPC UA and OPC Classic, and we also talked about the redundancy portion. So that's what we did very specifically with OPC Expert. Now, if you want to learn more about OPC, you can come to one of our hands-on training classes and earn your certified OPC professional designation, where once you attend the class, you learn how to configure OPC Classic with DCOM or OPC UA. You'll take a look at the security, how to set up the security and different accounts and so on. You troubleshoot OPC systems. You learn to properly secure OPC systems and apply the security, and you learn OPC best practices. You actually get two computers. So you get two different computers. You can start to connect over the network. You set up firewalls and, as I said, different user accounts, set up the security, access control list, stuff like this. You get communication working, then we break it, then you fix it, then we break it, then you fix it. So we kind of go back and forth there to really, really drive the point home of the troubleshooting. It's a very, very interactive, and if I may, I think it's a fun class. Now, to the workshops that are coming up. These are all remote, which means that there is no travel for you that's involved. These are interactive. You ask questions. There's a live instructor. These are live remote classes. These are not recorded. So you get to actually do this with an instructor and with other people in the class in our public classes. We've got public classes where it's your company, people from your company and people from other companies. You get to learn, exchange ideas. It's pretty neat, actually. And you can look for dates on our website. We also have, of course, private training. So if you got a bunch of colleagues that are interested in OPC, come to one of our private training classes and we'll do it just for you. Now, we do all of these classes either online, remote, or if you prefer in person, we do them on site as well. Okay, last slide here, and then I will get back to your questions. We still have just a few minutes here. We're going to send you an email with a link to this webinar recording. So you'll see exactly, you have a record of exactly what we talked about here. You will get a link to download OPC Expert as well. And we'll send you a link to examples with OPC Redundancy. So you'll get to see how this OPC Redundancy is actually working. You'll also get an invitation to our next webinar, which is OPC Bridging. And bridging enables you to transfer data between OPC servers. So if you have two OPC servers, two OPC DA servers, or two OPC UA servers, or one DA, one UA server, or multiple OPC servers, 5, you can have thousands of points. How do you get these things communicating? So you transfer data between OPC servers. So that's the next webinar that's coming up in August. So you'll get an invitation for that. Any questions at all, please send them over to us, info@opcti.com, or just give us a phone call and we will answer your questions. All right, this ends the formal part of this webinar.